So it's your boy Rich Gravy here with the 49ers Gravy Train, and I wanted to cover, all of the draft picks that we picked up from the second round, where we picked up Deshaun Stribling, number 33. We traded back from 27 to 30. We traded back, picked up a pick, a third round pick, and traded back again, and picked up another pick, and got Deshaun Stribling. He is our wide receiver. You know the Niners love drafting wide receivers. Kyle Shanahan himself was a wide receiver at the University of Texas, and he keens himself on knowing, wide receivers and the wide receiver that will unlock his offense. So he chose Deshaun Stribling, and I mean the guy is 4.3 speed, 6'3", 210 somewhere around that pounds. Blocks like a maniac. I mean, his blocking footage, he's DB pancakes. I mean, when I first saw the pick, I was like, who is he? I didn't know him. Like the Ricky Pearsall pick. So I was a little shocked. But the good thing about it was that after I'm man enough to say, okay, let me go do my deep dive on this particular player. And when I was able to do my deep dive on him, I was able to see that he is everything that the 49ers offense has been missing. I was wondering, what are we going to do far as the draft with, how do you say it? We lost the yards after catch ability when Deebo Samuel left. So when Deebo Samuel left and we lost that yards after catch ability, the bubble screens, all of the short crossing routes off of play action that he would take 70, 80 yards for a touchdown. They called themselves the Yak Bros, Kittle and Deebo for a long time, and we lost some of that. So this young man actually has that ability, and it's evident if you watch his footage. He was at Oklahoma State, he was at Ole Miss, and it says look, Yak, strong hand, size, and speed. So he really has a toolkit to be a number one caliber wide receiver. He can run past you. He's very, very physical. When he gets those short slants and crossing routes, bye-bye. See you later. He'll turn on the Jets, and he's gone. So I'm really, really looking forward to see what, Kyle Shanahan gets in his bag and draws up these plays for Deshaun Stribling. He's going to be a player. I'm convinced of it. I saw when Pearsall came out, I wanted them to go Cooper DeJean, and I still stand by that. But this one in particular, I wanted David Boston at the time, to be honest. But after watching his footage and watching this guy's footage, I see why they chose him instead. David Boston is kind of like something similar to what we already have with a big receiver, a 50-50 ball specialist, like a Mike Evans type receiver. You want to have different tools, hammer, drill in your toolkit. You don't want to just have the same, oh, we got 3 hammers. That's what the problem was. I feel like the receiving core last year, we had a bunch of slow possession guys. Nobody had any breakaway speed or deep speed. So I'm very pleased with the pick that the 49ers have made. And, I was looking forward to seeing what they're going to do. Training camp is coming up. The rookie OTAs is going on right now as we speak. So Deshaun is out there, getting acclimated with the offense, getting to know his coaches. And I think that if I had to, bet right now, I would say Deshaun Stribling is going to be the number 3 wide receiver, maybe 4 if he doesn't really catch on all the way. Because I know Mike Evans is 1. Ricky Pearsall, in my mind, because he's their first round pick, is going to be given every opportunity to be 2. Deshaun Stribling or Christian Kirk can battle it out for 3 or 4. And, with the way people get hurt, three or four both of them are going to play. Um, maybe Jordan Watkins can get 5, or what's the guy's name? Demarcus Robinson. So they have a couple different options. Jacob Cowing, and they drafted 2 undrafted free agents that ran 4.3 speeds, which we'll get around to later. But these are the toolkit now. I think the receiving core is 10 times better this year than what it was last year. I was very disappointed at the end of the year. We ran into Seattle. We got our heads kicked in, and we couldn't do a thing against their secondary. I mean, I think the receivers had something pathetic like 30 or 40 receiving yards against the Seattle Seahawks in that game because they couldn't get any separation. That's Scribling's uncle, apparently. Somebody in his family. So, we couldn't get anything done in that game. They had the Tariq Woolens and they had, the Nick Emmanwuris, and they were just cracking heads out there. We need some people that were explosive. When we had Debo, I remember Debo used to be the Seahawk killer. You give him a little cross. Or one time I remember they gave him a run and he ran it 60, 70 yards on him. So that's what we need. That's what we were missing. And that's what I'm hoping that we get back in the offense. So now they're moving on behind me to the second round pick. Actually, yeah, he's the third round pick, Romello Height. He's the pass rusher that, we needed. We had a league low 20 sacks last season. 20 sacks is not going to do anything for anybody. We're not going to win many games or be able to go to the playoffs or get a 6 Lombardi trophy with 20 sacks in a season. There's 17 games in a season. So what are we averaging? 1 sack a game? If that's terrible. So I feel that this guy right here, he has a great, he gets off quickly. He's the kind of guy that gets after the quarterback. He's in the backfield. He's a different type of pass rusher than what the Niners usually get. They usually get the 270-pound, 280-pound guys that can be solid in the run and set the edge on first downs and F all that. The Niners need some straight pass rushers, some Von Millers, some people that can turn the edge and just, get after the quarterback. Pure speed to the quarterback. So last year, Raheem Morris was in Atlanta, and James Pierce led the NFL for rookies in sacks last year. So he had about 10 sacks, and Raheem Morris picked him. Raheem Morris has also had a lot to do with this Romello Height pick, as well as Chris Kocurek, who is a huge Texas Tech fan. So he plays hard. Burst to close. He shoots gaps. Look. He's going right around the tackle. His bend like Gumby, kind of almost like an Alden Smith. So I do believe, and I'm going to go on record as saying this is going to be the best pass rusher we've had opposite of Bosa since forever. Probably D Ford, Chase Young, depending on how you felt about Chase. But just a top-notch pass rusher on the opposite side of Bosa that produced. Because Chase really didn't produce for the Niners, but I've seen he's producing for the Saints right now. He had double-digit sacks recently, and he was a high pedigree guy, top of the draft guy. So this type of player is what we need. You also have Mykel Williams, who's great on rundowns, sets the edge. We wouldn't want to stunt his growth. On first down, Mykel, have at it. Second down, Mykel, have at it. But third down, you can kick Mykel inside the defensive tackle and put a Height out there for that edge rush to get after those quarterbacks, keeping them fresh. Now, I'm not saying that's all he can be as a designated pass rusher, but I think that'll be his role early is on passing downs, whether it's second, whether it's third down, he needs to be on the field. He needs to be on the field. So I'm looking forward to seeing what neat ways Raheem Morris decides to use Romello Height. And, are we going to do some 5-man fronts? because Romello Height could be like a stand-up outside linebacker in the five-man fronts. And that would be a way to have him and Mikael Williams on the field at the same time with Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw. So, you know what I'm saying? That sounds like a good way to get all of your best players on the field, especially on run downs. When you want to also, if they decide to do play action, you want to have some pass rush. They can get after the quarterback on those run downs. So, instead of having the Sam linebacker out there for coverage, you could have that Sam linebacker turn into like an outside linebacker in a 3-4 and be down there, and you send 5 at the quarterback. You got, Greenlaw, you got Warner, and you got your secondary back there, but you commit 5 people up front, and you commit 6 people to cover in the backside, 4 in the secondary, 2 linebackers. Y'all got the pass. But us up 5, we finna get after this quarterback. So let's see if they're gonna let me skip that. I guess not. But Romello Height and Deshaun Stribling, I think, are gonna be 2 pretty solid picks for us. And I'm actually looking forward to seeing how they turn out. Right now, the draft class has really been getting reamed. Everybody says we got an F draft class, one of the worst draft classes that they've ever seen, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, I don't know if it's that bad. I probably would give it either a C+ or a B-. It's too early to really tell. It could be better. This was the pick that pissed everybody off. And it's nothing against this kid. It's nothing against him. I think that Black is going to be a terrific running back for the 49ers. I'm going to go on a limb and say that. He bench presses, and squats like 475 pounds. Like, he is a physical, like Malik Mustafa, somebody that's always in the weight room. You can tell that the guy is, getting to it. You know what I'm saying? He is a little pocket Hercules. Perfect, keeps running. When I watch this film, he falls forward. He always falls forward for yards. Indiana was the number 1 team in college football. They went undefeated. He ran for 1,000 yards for Indiana last year, and they couldn't do nothing with him. So you get this guy a hole. He's explosive. The spin move is nasty. You've seen that. He runs inside with power. And I think he's going to be a terrific running back. Why was this pick so controversial? Why were Niner fans like, no, not another 3rd round running back? Because the 49ers have selected several running backs in the draft, and all of them to a man, from Joe Williams, Tyrion Price, was Carlos Hyde even one? We had so many bad running backs that we have picked. It's really ridiculous. And then we have Guerendo on the roster. They didn't give him 1 carry last season. They have Jordan James on the roster. I think he got 6 carries all last season. And then you go and draft another running back on top of that. How many running backs are you actually going to, carry on this roster? You got McCaffrey's spot is solidified. Juszczyk's spot is solidified. And, maybe they carry 5 running backs. So what are the other 3 going to be? I'm sure if they spent the 3rd round pick on this guy right here, Black is going to have to be the backup, to me, the number 2 running back to Christian McCaffrey, for them to have spent this draft capital, because they didn't go out and get a left guard, which I thought would have been better for the running game, to get one of these big Larry Allen type, hog molly guards that can open holes up. But the Niners just do not believe in investing in the offensive line. They're more 4th, 5th round picks, whatever, will make something happen with them. And they've had a track record, Colton McKivitz and some other guys, late round draft picks that are starting for them, and they think they're terrific. I think they drafted Pooney in the 3rd round, and he was really good. So we'll see how it all works out, Like I said, it's too early to judge. I wasn't really crazy about the Willis and the Cruz, but they may turn out to be terrific players down the road. I know that Cruz was the fastest offensive lineman at the combine this year, ran a 4.940. And I don't know much about Willis. From what I saw, he was a guy who was a tackle at Washington, and then they plan on kicking him inside to guard. He did have good Pro Football Focus grades from what I saw. So with that being said, man, this guy runs hard. Maybe like a Frank Gore type. You can look at him and see he's shredded. Um, he's going to be a good running back for us. But the Niner fans were like a woman that's been beat by her husband, right? So not another third round running back. So like the woman, you come in the room and the woman's It's like, okay, because we've had such a bad experience with third round running backs. We're like, Cal, not another third round running back. What I learned when I delved into this process was Bobby Turner is the 49ers running backs coach. And these are the people that get to pick the players. They have to prepare highlight films for Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan will watch the highlight films and then determine who he likes out of the assistant coaches. These are the guys we like. These are their highlight films. Kyle will watch them and then determine which one of those people that the assistant coaches like is worth the 49ers spending a draft pick on. So Bobby Turner, apparently he was told by Kyle Shanahan he could get a running back in the third round or something like that every year. So, he has been getting a running back in the third or so round every year, and people feel like he would be an affront if he didn't get his third round running back and they don't want to make Bobby Turner mad because he did find Terrell Davis late in the round. But on to Grayson Halton. Grayson Halton is a defensive tackle from the University of Oklahoma. I think Aaron Donald, if I'm not mistaken, came from the University of Oklahoma. Not for sure quite, but I do think that's where he came from. And this guy's tape is impressive. His tape is impressive. Grayson Halton is going to be a player for us. They got defensive tackles last year, C.J. West, and the other guy that they got, Alfred Collins. They're big hog mollies, right? They're big run stuffers that can, take on a double team. But this guy, get off speed, shocking his hands and productive, right? That's what ESPN is saying about him. And you watch his film and he shoots out of his gap and he's in the backfield. Tackle for loss. Yeah, dance on him, Big Grayson. Big dancing bear. Look at him. That's nasty, man. That is nasty. Chris Kasarik is going to do something. This defensive line is going to be a terror. Not to mention the two defensive tackles they got after the draft that, were fantastic. One of them bench 6'6" and bench press 37 reps at 225. But Grayson Halton, while everybody else was saying, they reached here. Nobody was like, they reached for Grayson. Because Grayson was one of the top-rated defensive tackles in the draft. Everybody knew it. It was not a big secret. And look, he's produced like it, and he looks really, really good. And I think that the 49ers will be pleased with their pick of Grayson Halton. Now, behind me is Mr. Willis. So, Carver Willis, I want to say, from Washington. He's the offensive tackle that the 49ers selected in the fourth round because we had several fourth round picks. And, look, I wasn't like, oh my God, Carver Willis, just what I wanted for Christmas. But he could be great. I'm not going to sell the guy short. I don't do a deep dive on these offensive linemen. I'm listening to who's on the consensus board list, the Mel Kipers, the top 100 top. So those are the people where I get most of my information from. Guilty is charged that when they said Carver Willis, I'm like, who? But They said he played for the first time in 2025. He has 18 career starts at right tackle. He looks like a pretty solid pass protector and a very capable run protector. When Pro Football Focus gave him an 84 run blocking grade, so hopefully that translates. He'll be next to Trent Williams if he does win the starting left guard position, and I hope that he does. Look, cream of the crop going to rise to the top. So if this is a good draft class and they pick the right guy, Carver Willis in the 4th round, great. He's not going to have anything handed to him. From what I see, they did get a guy named Robert Jones, who has already been a starter for the Dolphins, and he probably will get that job. Now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, I don't know if the rookie's going to be able to come in there and take that job. Connor Colby is also competing for it. So we got a couple different options there. But, jury's definitely still out on whether they filled the offensive line hole. On to Ephesians Prysock. Ephesians Prysock is a very interesting draft pick because he's 6'3". 6'3", about 200 pounds, and at cornerback, that's rare and exceptional size for a corner. Most corners, 6'3", 6'4", like the wide receivers, like Mike Evans, they're that big, but you sometimes need this big corner to be able to handle some of these big receivers, right? They said he was a little handsy. Like, you see his hand wrapped around the waist. He got a couple penalties, but the coverage is sticky. So if they can get him not be so handsy and just use his length and his size to kind of be like a Nick Emmanwori type of coverage person with the size, I know he's not going to be physical and hit like Nick Emmanwori because Nick Emmanwori was a safety. But just to be a big corner like a Bobby Taylor or Richard Sherman style corner, it can help in our defense, and we always can use good corners. I think the addition of Jack Jones was special. He has a knack for pick sixes, and I'm looking forward to seeing if he can take somebody's job. But Ronaldo Green has been really solid since he's been with the Niners. Deommodore Lenoir is the clear-cut number 1 for the 49ers right now. And I thought Upton Stout was the best draft pick that we had. So he had 7 pass breakups. He started a lot of games at Washington. And his footage, his coverage, I mean, he's there. So, these are wide receivers. Some of these wide receivers are getting drafted. And he's like, give me that pick. Quit playing with me. You know what I'm saying? And I like his length. He ran a 4.4 40, so he's not slow. He definitely has adequate speed. You see he's not scared to come up and tackle, right? So, I love corners that aren't scared to stick their nose in there, get in there and make a tackle because, they're going to be running those sweeps outside, man. They're going to be running those wide receiver bubble screens and stuff. And you got to have somebody that's not scared to stick their nose in there and come up and make a tackle. So, on to our next pick. I want to say this is a linebacker that we got in the 5th round, either the 5th or the 6th round. But, when we get late in the draft like this, it's like, okay, we're getting some people, but I'm not going to... He had 120-something tackles at the University of Louisiana. So the Niners dig for gold in these late rounds, man. And when I saw his footage, I'm like, man, that looks like a little hitter, man. Look like he might do a little something for us. At least give us some quality depth, or he'll have to make his hay on special teams. But to be that long and have that much length, and he had 4 sacks, so he actually does get after the quarterback. 6'5", 250 pounds. Jaden Duggar. So you got a kid that's look. Come on, man. I mean, they blitzed him from the middle linebacker spot, and he came in there and tore that quarterback's head off. He has a knack for blitzing. He has a knack. Maybe he'll be used in like an edge rusher capacity. You know, that's what some other people are not. 6'5", 250. You know, if they can put height out there, and the height is like 6'3", 240. Look, Duggar may get some pass rush opportunity. So Enrique Cruz, this is the final offensive tackle that we selected out of Kansas. They love going to Kansas. I think they got Pooney out of Kansas. So Kansas is their school. He looks, you know, he looks like he's been in the gym. He doesn't look like the average fat guy, you know, the average fat offensive lineman. So when they said, oh, he ran a 4.95 40-yard dash, Niners pride themselves on offensive linemen. They can move. Their 10-yard shuttle is super important. They want guys that are fast. So Enrique Cruz is a fast offensive lineman. He's 6'5". He's 312 pounds. And I think he's a good project swing tackle. You know, I don't know if he'll be the replacement for Trent Williams, but he's a project swing tackle. And I look forward to seeing how he plays in the preseason. I mean, if he earns a spot on the roster, because it's going to be a dogfight. Because they had Pleasance, who's 6'8", a veteran, who was their swing tackle last year. They went out and got Badarian Lowe, who was also a swing tackle type. So the battle for the swing tackle is going to be tough. It's going to be tough for this kid to make the team. He may get released and put on the practice squad. That's more of a possibility to me. But I think that, you know, the Niners draft, usually we had 8 picks. This guy right here, I think, is going to be really good. He is the defensive tackle they just showed had 37 reps of 225. That is a tight end that we got out of Penn State. Blocking was his specialty. Dinkins. That's a Kamara, a defensive end who had 120-something pressures in 2024. Boom Meester is the punter that we got out of Texas that's going to compete. This is one of the 2 wide receivers that we got. Grimes ran a 4.3 40. This is the defensive tackle, Easton, who is like 6'2", 320, but looks like a very physical guy. This is a safety that we picked up. And look, that is the 49ers draft class. You're here. If you stayed for the full video, 49ers Gravy Train. I appreciate you guys. Please like, please subscribe. Come and take a ride on the 49ers Gravy Train. 49ers draft class in the books. I give it a B-. Peace.